No AI.
Record, but we don't use AI.
We do record, but we don't use AI. Um, so as I mentioned, it's so great to see many new faces here in person, as well as virtually. If this is your first time, well, actually, let me reintroduce myself, right? Because I've introduced myself to everybody. My name is Efrain Ortiz. I'm the membership and outreach coordinator here with Initiate Justice. My pronouns are he, him, his. Thank you all again for joining us for our March community meeting. I know y'all are excited about our bill package. So are we. We're ready to get to work. So hopefully you are as well, because we got work to do, right? If this is your first time joining us, my colleagues will drop a link in the chat. And for those here in person, on the recap email, you will have that link. So that way that you stay connected with Initiate Justice. It's tinyurl.com // join IJ. See? Um, for those joining us in the via Zoom, I'll ask you all please to mute yourself. If you do have questions, my colleagues Alyssa and Adriana will be monitoring the chat. We'll also have some time towards the end for folks to share, ask questions, and things of that nature. But we ask everyone to please stay muted if you can. And then Alyssa and Adriana again will be letting us know when there's questions popping up. But with that, well, you all introduce yourself. I'll actually let my colleagues that are joining us via Zoom introduce themselves. Alyssa?
Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining us this Thursday afternoon, or evening now. Excited to share our new bill package with you all and also learn what stuff you all are working on this year as well. But my name's Alyssa, pronouns she, her, hers. I'm the executive assistant here at IJ and excited to be in space with everyone. I will pass it to Adriana.
Hi, everyone, good evening. Sorry for being off camera. For some reason, Zoom is not able to find my camera this evening all of a sudden. So I'm working on it in the background. But Adriana, statewide advocacy manager, I know a few of you, a few new faces. Hi to everybody there that's in person. Sorry I couldn't be there. I am a little under the weather today, but I'm happy to be in space with everybody. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Efrain.
Did you guys introduce yourself?
Yes. I'm actually going to let my other colleagues here, which you'll hear more about. So they'll do a brief introduction, and you're going to hear a little bit more of all the hard work they are doing.
I'm Liz Kim. I'm the policy director at IJ, she, her pronouns.
Giovanni Nachar, she, her pronouns. I'm the policy associate.
Antoinette Radcliffe, again, I guess I'll stand up. Antoinette Radcliffe, executive director, and she, her pronouns as well. Thank you all for being here.
All righty. With that, we do have one quick organizational update. And Adriana, if you're good, you come off from you. Because it is nearing a deadline. Again, this is some of the work that we're doing right now. We do the work out here in the Capitol, but we also touch, as you can see, we have people joining us throughout California, so we want to be in the district's offices as well. So Adriana, if you wanted to share that.
Yes, I will drop it in the chat right now. And then if folks can hear me, as Efrain said, the last day to sign up is tomorrow, Friday. I'm dropping it into the chat now for folks that are on Zoom. And again, for those that are there in person, you will get this in the recap email that's going out. And you can also find it on our Instagram as well. So it is posted on our Instagram as well. But we are coordinating these visits really to encourage folks to start building relationships with their state leaders, You can do these visits at any time of the year. We just happen to be coordinating them right now for the springtime. And so we have quite a few signups already, but definitely looking for more folks that are interested. We did do an info session this past Tuesday, just bringing folks more into the know of what's going on, what to expect. We will be doing a repeat of that info session on Tuesday, the 10th at 5:30 via Zoom. So if you sign up to do an in-district visit, you will get an email confirmation email immediately. And in that email is the RSVP link for that info session on Tuesday. So hope to see some of y'all, some new signups after tonight. I'll be going in there in the morning and tomorrow and seeing what new signups we might have. So feel free to reach out to me directly as well if you have any questions or concerns or anything like that. No experience is necessary. Absolutely none. As I said, we do the info session and we are providing support for folks that are maybe a little bit newer to this. So, and again, we're not asking folks to discuss any legislation or any bills or anything like that. This is solely just about giving you the opportunity to build a relationship with your state reps. And so you can go in there and really discuss anything that you would want, anything that's relevant to your community, anything that's relevant to the work that you are doing. And so we are leaving it completely open to you all to determine how you want to approach those visits. I think I pretty much covered it. But team, feel free to fill in any gaps I may have missed. But I will drop the link again in the chat just in case I think we had some folks joining in as a mid-sentence. So I'll drop the link again in the chat. But again, and my email. So feel free to reach out to me if there's any questions. Thanks, Ephraim.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah,
The link is for those in the room who are interested. The link to sign up for the spring and district meetings is tinyurl.com/IJ spring visits. It will also be on one of our last slides here, so just stick around and you'll have that link as well. And I also just want to add that we like to do them during spring recess or summer recess because it's a little bit less busy. There is not as much, obviously the members are on a break from the legislative work, and so they are likely, our hope is that they are more attentive, a little bit more accessible. And so that's why we try to coordinate these around spring and summer. As Adriana said, we do not need IJ to coordinate these, however. And so we hope that you will participate in these ones with us. And then in the future, you will continue to meet with your district offices at your own leisure and with your own community, family, and friends.
Yes. Very low stakes. Just really get to know your representatives. I did it last year, and the organizer who was going for our district, I told them, I said, I'm here not as IJ staff, I'm here as a constituent, and I'm here and you're leading this meeting. So it was fun to just kind of sit back. But again, it's a way to get to know them, for them to get to know about you, right? So that they know that they have impacted people in their communities and they're hearing directly for us. As Antoinette said, like, I think this is something we coordinate just, to start, but we hope that you continue to show up and continue to build that relationship and just start coordinating those visits or dropping in their district office on your own. All right. All right. Without further ado.
Great. Are we getting them off the hook on introducing the rest of folks, or?
Yeah, we're gonna get going.
Yeah, what we go is as we go through the presentation and have conversations, if you do have a question and we invite you to, engage, to share your thoughts or your questions, please definitely share share your name so we know who's talking and who's here.
Yes. Yes, without further ado, I'm gonna step out the way because I am not no policy expert, and I'm gonna hand it over to the expert, our policy director, Liz and Shivani.
All right, thanks.
Let's give a round of applause. Chat, come on, let's go.
We've already done a little bit of interest, but who are we? Why do we care about policy? What do we do in policy? So just a little bit about our roles. As policy director and policy associate in the policy department, what we hope to do is translate some of the lived experience that you all bring in our community into the building, right? the community has needs and legislation needs to hear from all of you. So we're really your voice, your advocate, and we bring those stories to hope to build bills um, from all of your experiences and from directly impacted people. I just celebrated 20 years from being home. So yeah, it's a long journey getting here. And I remember when I first came home, I had no idea how to do this work. So this has been a long time coming. So bringing that experience, navigating the Capitol, that's what I want to bring to the community. So a little bit about what I do, my role.
Yeah, and I think another big goal for the policy department is making policy skills as accessible to everybody, right? Like policy is not something you learn in a classroom necessarily. It's something you learn by doing. And so we try to create a lot of opportunities, and we'll be doing a lot more of that this year to make sure that, yes, we're there to be a bridge, but you are your own voice, right? And we want everyone community to feel empowered, safe, and confident in bringing your voice to the Capitol and fighting for the issues that you care about that impact you and your loved ones. So that's another big role that we play.
Yeah, and so there's folks that are still inside, right? There's folks here, and then there's still folks that are inside. So we want to make sure that there's a channel between us here and those inside, and we want to turn that into strategy, into law, and into legislation. So that's what policy does. That's what we're hoping to do, and we want to do that together. That's what we had to kind of put all together into our bill selection this year. We came on to the team last year, summer, so we had to build some infrastructure as a new policy department. And this process, of course, is fluid. We want all of your input as we're continuing to make this process with all of you and all of your input. So this is not a final process. We go over here.
Oh, because you're gonna be in front of that.
Yeah, I don't want to be in the way. Is this okay with the camera? Okay. And we want your input as we continue to build the process of building our bill package every year. But we wanted to make sure that it shows alignment with IJ values, that it invites curiosity from the community, and that we have all of your input as we build this process.
Can I mention one thing real quick, just because you touched on it? So policy doesn't happen, or bill ideas, selecting a bill package does not happen overnight. It doesn't happen in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. It doesn't even happen in the 6, 7 months that y'all have been here, right? So our policy team, both Liz and Shivani, joined us in, I think, June of last year, mid-year. Usually, oftentimes, organizations are already in the process of reviewing, researching, and vetting possible legislation to bring forth the next year. And so I do want to commend this team for joining us mid-year and still developing a bill package for this following year while finishing out, right? Because we had 6 bills in 2025. So while finishing out the existing legislative session, getting to know the team, getting acquainted to the work, to the community. So just, can we get a huge round of applause for this policy team? That's big.
Yeah,
That's a lot of work. They
appreciate it.
compounded or compacted into a couple of months.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know Shivani and I, we did have to acclimate to the session ending last year and then catching up and then building a team, a department. So, and then wanting to get real input, right, from inside and outside, and then putting the package together. So with that said, I think the important questions that we were asking ourselves and the community in that process is, how does this impact our currently incarcerated folks? We were going inside facilities. Our inside organizers are really very intentional about that, about which facilities we're going into, right? Especially the ones that don't have folks going inside, right? The ones that have access to programming like San Quentin, not all facilities have that access, right? So we were very intentional about that. And then formerly incarcerated people, making sure that we are connecting with them, getting their input, and then is it aligned with Initiate Justice's mission and values? This is very work intensive, time consuming, a lot of conversations having to happen. And then is it a priority for community while thinking about the feasibility, which means is it possible in the current political climate? That's a big one, right? The legal landscape, it's a big one. We know what's going on right now, federally, statewide, local wise, right? And do we have the capacity? Our team is small, let's just be real, right? We have a powerful coalition, but we want to make sure that it makes sense for all of our coalition partners while we're trying to measure up to our own capacity as people and as our team, and then our time, resources, and the support that we're getting from our coalition. Yeah, whoops. Okay. What's going on? Okay, so with all of that, the first one that we'll get into is AB 1851. Super happy to share this one with you because it came from inside. We were able to have a pilot project that was inside Pleasant Valley State Prison. Not sure if you're familiar with where that's located, but it's way out there in Coalinga, Fresno area. And this one, again, doesn't have a lot of access to programming, but we had a cohort of folks that was about 12 students that are emerging leaders, advocates, that within a time period of 2 months learned the legislative process. We didn't know if they would have a bill ready, but they were able to get 3 proposals ready in 2 months. And we didn't know if we would have it shoppable for authors. And Assembly Member Mike Gibson was happy to take on this bill, which would help to make social emotional learning curriculum for K through 12 students a statewide requirement. And this is especially important because they didn't want a get out of prison early bill. They wanted to look within themselves, figure out how do we get to this point in prison and help youth avoid that in the future. So that's why this is powerful. They wanted to help youth. They did a lot of research, by the way, figured out that post-COVID, students are suffering from absenteeism, social anxiety, wanted to fight the school to prison pipeline, and developed this bill idea from that sentiment. So the LA Youth Justice Coalition co-sponsored this bill with us, and we even have our first education committee hearing on March 18th. This bill is moving pretty fast. This is a first education bill for IJ, so it's really exciting. We've already made contact with the California Education Department, the California Teachers Association, and it's getting a lot of attention and interest from other community partners as well.
So our second bill is AB 1922, authored by Assemblymember Lowenthal. It is officially titled the Do No Harm Act, and the goal of this bill is really to make sure that all patients, even if you are incarcerated, that you are treated with dignity and humanity in healthcare. Currently, as I'm sure many of you know, if you are transported outside for healthcare and you're incarcerated, you are going to be shackled, either by your wrists, ankles, around the waist, or all of the above. And custody will routinely deny medical providers who ask for those shackles to be removed. And so we can all think about the harms of that, right? Like from very little, if you just want to soothe yourself or comfort yourself when you're in the hospital, you can't even turn around, you can't even move or like go to the bathroom by yourself, right? All the way to disrupting the medical care and the treatment that medical providers are able to deliver. So this bill is trying to realign our practices to make sure that medical ethics are at the forefront of care. We have quite a few co-sponsors, the Women's Foundation California, Sustainable Economies Law Center, Fresh Lifelines for Youth, Community Works Web, Baker Center. I think this is also an exciting bill for us because it is heavily focusing on youth justice as well, right? Trying to think about the children who are being shackled while they receive medical care. And actually, I have an update as of 4 p.m. today. We have been slated for a committee hearing. So on March 17th, in 2 Tuesdays, we'll have our first committee hearing in Assembly Public Safety. And I'll share a little bit more later in the presentation of how folks can get involved if they want to support. Thanks.
want to quickly add that when I was incarcerated, I was shackled. My first day being incarcerated, I had a heart incident because of being incarcerated. I, had a little bit of an incident. And so the day that I was supposed to be released, instead of being released, I was sent to a medical facility and I was shackled. And so that experience is very personal to me. So I didn't mention that and just reminded me of that. So just sharing a personal experience from that.
Can I also add something to this one
Yeah.
too? I do want to add that similar to what we were talking about earlier, this bill is over a year in the making. And so I do want to acknowledge that this was an idea that Initiate Justice explored for our 2025 bill package. I am talking to the team. It's a bill that we explored for the 2025 bill package, and there's just a lot of research and a lot of work that goes into getting a bill in relationship building. And so it's one example of how what we mentioned earlier, there are a lot of moving pieces. There are a lot of different things to consider when thinking about, is an idea a good policy solution? And if it is, how do we get it into a viable or like a winning policy solution? And so huge shout out to all of these co-sponsors, Shivani and the other coalition advocates that she's working with to bring this into fruition, introduced, and now that we're hearing it. So huge progress.
The next one, I'm going to just preface this with it being a very legal heavy bill and a little harder to explain. But this is the Racial Justice Act bill authored by Assemblymember Ashkara. And this Racial Justice Act bill will try to do 4 things. It aims to fix inconsistent language. It's heavily litigated, this bill, because as you can imagine, racial bias is very hard to prove in the courts. It aims to give better access to data. It aims to maintain the right to relief for people with plea bargains. So not waiving your right to a Racial Justice Act claim just because you took a plea bargain. And it addresses judicial misconduct. So judges also being subject to racial justice claims. So this currently has finalized language. We're waiting for it to be updated on Ledge Info. So we'll keep you posted on that. And we're also hoping to get a name for this bill.
And I feel like this bill is a really good example, right, of how policy is not the end all be all to changing the systems, because this will be version 6,
7. There's some that we
of the
attempted.
Racial Justice Act, which passed many years ago now, right? And the intent of that bill, which was to eliminate racial discrimination in our courts, hasn't realized. It's not occurring day to day across California. And so we have to continue making these important technical fixes, but it also speaks to the importance of all the other ways to advocate, right? And to protect our communities from the failures of systems that we're trying to address through this one avenue.
And I will add too that these are the 3 bills that ended up on our bill package. We've gone through many bill proposals in this process. We've had to go through many bills that ended up on the package, which were then whittled down due to coalition decisions, political climate being reasons as to why they ended up being pulled from our bill package. And also just wanting to name an anecdote with this particular bill, we were discussing with the Judges Association, for example, on language for this one. And then the judges ended up going with their own bill against our wishes. And then, which we thought was funny because their bill has to actually go through Judiciary Committee, which Colorado sits on as chair. So not a good strategy on their part. But so these are our 3 bills, and we will be needing your support through the session for them.
Yeah, before we move on, I do want to pause. Well, I want to add something to what you just mentioned around the judges. the Racial Justice Act, but also we have a lot of comments here. I think it's a good time to kind of stop and
Comments,
question.
okay.
Yeah, we have a lot.
Definitely.
And it's a good time to pause for questions. I will add, y'all, you would see that in California, right, as progressive as we are positioned to be across the nation, that racial justice wouldn't require, if you notice, this has the biggest coalition of all of the bills that we are working on. You wouldn't think that it would be such, right, that it would require so much consistent work to actually realize racial justice in a state like California, but it has been. To Liz's point, last year we ran AB 1071. Some of you may remember that one did pass. That one also fixed 4 different things that were wrong with the Racial Justice Act as well. And we had some opposition to that one from the Sheriff's Association. Luckily, in that instance, we were able to work collaboratively with Senator Caballero's office, who was looking on the bill at that time, SB 734, with the Sheriff's Association to make sure that it didn't disrupt or, in other words, run counter to the Racial Justice Act. So sometimes we are able to work in partnership and build solutions. Well, we're building solutions, ensure that it's not being undermined by other efforts. What Liz is mentioning is a situation where we have attempted to do that early with the Judges Association, but running into some obstacles and trying to do so, unfortunately. So just kind of examples of the type of things we run into when trying to accomplish a bill, because as you all know, by the time our bills get signed, they don't always look the same. These bills all look like this today. They could look different after their first committee hearing. And it's because of these different situations where we receive opposition, where we have to compromise. And so just wanting to like shine a little bit of light on that. But we have a lot of comments and questions in the chat, and I'm sure we have some here. So I don't know how you want to facilitate that if it's your show.
I know y'all keep doing your thing.
It's your show.
Yeah, we want to get some hands raised in the chat. I know that some people dropped them. If you do feel comfortable coming off mute, just raise your hand, and then Alyssa, you can just call on them because I cannot see everybody.
I know one question was actually, maybe we can start with this. One question was, when do these bills go up for a vote? Right? So I think both Liz and Shivani can speak more to it, but the first time that they go up for a vote is by a small committee of assembly members, because these are all assembly bills, so they go through that house first. And so as Shivani mentioned, AB 1922 goes up on Tuesday, March 17th, and then our bill with Assemblymember Mike Gibson goes up in the Education Committee on Wednesday, March 18th. So 2 different committees. AB 1922 goes through the Public Safety Committee, as most of our bills do, majority of our bills do. And then Mike Gibson's bill goes through the Education Committee on Wednesday, March 18th. And that is the first time that the bills will be voted on. But it's only by a small group. So you have to learn who's on the Public Safety Committee and then who's on the Education Committee.
Any questions, comments, thoughts from those here or in the chat?
I wanted to ask, what was the issue that you were talking on this with the judges trying to kind of make their own version of a bill? Was it in regards to like a counterattack to the Racial Justice Act or the quality?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So the issue there is that the judges somehow got this idea that they would be held liable for racial bias in the courts. So there hasn't been too many incidents of that thus far, but there was an incident where judges were somehow given this idea that they would either be held liable, that they would be disciplined, and that they would be subject to liability. And so how would we go about dealing with that? Now, judges are held accountable in a different way. There's like ways to be sanctioned, and there's professional conduct ways to deal with judges' misconduct, judicial misconduct. But they wanted to go for some reason through the RJA route of protecting themselves. And so initially there was concern that they would be served in the home if they weren't at court, and they started getting really freaked out about all the process issues, the procedural issues. And so they really wanted to protect themselves from liability for racial bias. So then they really were like, we don't like the way that the negotiations are happening. So then they decided to just in bad faith, write their own bills going against the back of the coalition, and then wrote their own bills, their own bill.
So no one wants to be called a racist. This is the same exact thing that happens to the Sheriff's Association. If you look at SB 734 from last year, it was a similar scenario. This bill was to ensure that sheriffs were not unreasonably held liable or accountable. The RJ is to hold the court system, right? It's to hold our systems accountable. And of course, folks who are actors in those systems do not want to be targeted or singled out as the perpetrators of racial bias. And that's a lot of what we're running into.
Yeah. But now the issue, I will say though, the way that the Racial Justice Act is written though, is not to go after anyone. It's just to provide relief, and to provide relief for those who are convicted, to give them relief, like a new trial or new sentencing. It's not to get the DA in trouble or the courts in trouble. It's relief for the person convicted. So for the judges to act this way, it's like making it about them, and it's really not even about them. So this is like really taking it into another direction when it's not even about the DAs or the judges.
Good job on the 1071, by the way.
Yeah.
That's a very promising deal.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a lot of action.
Thanks for the question. Anyone else?
I see a hand on Zoom.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you, Chris.
Sherry.
Sherry has a question.
Go for it, Sherry.
Mute. There it is. As soon as I find my mute, kind of lost it in all these different little screens. I have a question about the shackling medical thing. What are you proposing? I understand they do it for security. I also understand it's extremely extreme. It hurts my heart that my son had 2 major surgeries, shackled 2 from and during. But what are they proposing instead of? Is there an alternative that is being proposed with this bill, or is it just they can't do it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So currently, there are federal regulations governing a medical restraint process that hospitals all across the United States have to comply with. And those medical restraints were specifically created both for patient and healthcare workers' safety. So they are similar in nature, right? In that they do restrain the patient by the wrist to the bed. However, the material that they use is not harmful to the patient or their medical condition. And they're highly, highly regulated and restricted in use. So when a doctor orders a medical restraint, they have to use the least restrictive restraint possible. It has to be updated and reassessed regularly on a 2-hour basis. And if they decide it has to be continued, it's documented in the chart with the doctor's name to hold them accountable in case there was any misuse of that restraint. So in the bill, there is language that says, because hospitals already use these protocols to ensure patient safety and healthcare worker safety, we should let doctors do their job and make the decision when restraints are necessary for the care of the patient, not having that be a custody decision.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions?
Question. No?
Or comments?
Comments, right? Anything. I did see some in the chat, folks who really liked the SEL bill, the social emotional learning bill, for various reasons. Let's see. Let me scroll back to some of these and maybe bring them into.
I know Lisa said you would.
Yeah, I can name some.
There we
Yeah.
go. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah. We're looking through the same chat. One of the questions that we got was for the I believe it's for the RJA bill for the judicial misconduct. Will it also include a prosecution misconduct?
I wish. That's the problem. No, honestly, I'm being dead serious. We have more issues with prosecutorial misconduct than judges misconduct, to be completely honest. Short answer, no. And that's really it. So the RJA, the Racial Justice Act, includes a long list of words that should not be used in court to prosecute someone, which would demonstrate racial bias. And it includes words like thug or, you know, things like gangster and all these like words that should not be used in convicting somebody, where it indicates the obvious words that indicate racism, right? And most recently, a word that was used in court that they really debated was whether it should be included in that list was duck. A judge referred to somebody as duck. And so they debated for a long time whether that was a racial slur or not. And so these are things that we're debating whether it should be added or not, because in certain contexts, it can be used as a racial slur. So just giving you context, but short answer, prosecutorial misconduct is not being considered in this particular bill.
Okay, thank you for that. And then another question we got was, has there been a previous California bill similar to AB 1851 recently? Valerie said it sounds familiar, but she might be mistaken.
Oh. So that's a good question.
The SDL bill?
The SDL bill.
So yeah, I think it was 5 to 8 years ago. Don't quote me on that. There was an education bill that recommended that California start adopting social emotional learning from K through 12, but there was no like implementation mechanism necessarily. And so a lot of schools, due to a lot of different reasons, right, funding, lack of investment, things like that, don't have the capacity to be able to implement that type of education. So this bill would be more of like an enforcement mechanism.
Yeah, just to expand on that a little bit, there's been a lot of prior legislation that addressed the need for it. In fact, they've even created the curriculum for it. So the Department of Education has recognized the need and has created it. They just haven't been successful in implementing it statewide. So currently the way that it looks is it's working in patches, right? So those educators who believe in it can use it and are using it, but it's not statewide. And so that's what we're hoping to do with this bill.
That's a great question.
Yes, Henry?
In regards to that curriculum, are we gonna limit, like I know in some of the like the self-help fights, there was that fight against directly impacted cultural healing practices, right? As opposed to the evidence-based, the academia and stuff. Are we going to have some flexibility where it could be emotional intelligence, where it doesn't have to just always be evidence-based, where they get all the grants and all the possibilities? I think it'd be important to add some language that ideally, preferably, impacted curriculum that can be evidence-based, but that doesn't necessarily have to be restricted by the evidence-based regulations that kind of just limit some of the. Yeah, well, just the academic, that the typical white person that has no experience but has all the credentials, but
very
and they always get the grants, but then you have a
Yeah.
subjective stuff that's cultural based, that's really not academically.
Yeah.
Really
It's a great point. And I can speak as someone, I did K through 12 in California, and my school luckily did do social emotional learning. And so basically the Department of Education has curriculum, right? It has like the scaffolding for what social emotional learning includes, but implementation can vary a lot based on the educator. And so my educator did include a lot of those cultural practices because we were mostly a school of youth of color, right? And so they understood that like Western practices to emotional healing, for example, might not apply to all of us from other contexts or other upbringings. So it's definitely more of a, the curriculum that they devise, it's not like you have to do it exactly this way. It provides guidance to educators, and then they can bring in their own understandings and expertise. So it's definitely an important point.
That would vary like by city, regions.
And thanks for
stuff
that, like, anecdote.
That would be great.
I'll add one more thing. Since COVID, absenteeism and social anxiety has just skyrocketed. And so they haven't seen it as such a need before, but now schools and educators are seeing the need for it. And that's why the governor has really prioritized behavioral health initiatives for students. And so there's an initiative, it's the California Youth Health Behavioral Health Initiative, and there's $4.9 billion for it. And Governor Newsom's really been prioritizing it. And so that's why we're hoping that this is going to be much more successful now.
Any other questions, comments? There's a few things I want to touch on before we move to the next the slide after this, but
there's one from Antonio kind of following up with Liz for AB 1958 regarding the prosecutorial misconduct, and whether it can be added to the current bill that we have for the RJA, or what does that look like? Pretty much he said that it should be in there, and he's more so thinking misconduct that's racially motivated or implied. Just picking your in there, Liz.
So I definitely appreciate that. And so, you know, the intent of the RJA is to address the way that folks are prosecuted. So indirectly, without going after the prosecutor, we're going after the way they are prosecuted. So if there's input that you would like for us to, you know, communicate to the coalition, I'm happy to discuss with you about what those specifics that you'd like me to articulate or to discuss with the coalition. But the entire RJA bill is really to address the way folks are incarcerated. I'm sorry, prosecuted. So that's what we're trying to attack.
And then we could drop in Liz and Shivani's email in the chat. So you guys have any follow-up questions, you could ask. Definitely follow up with them in regards to that.
Okay, I have one more. Sorry, Liz. Rodney has a question. He doesn't know how to raise his hand, but you can unmute yourself, Rodney, if you're able to, and ask the question.
I just kind of want to comment on what was spoke on earlier regarding AB 1851. It was just it's a really valid point in regards to talking about the cultural difference and whoever the educator is having, or just like putting that awareness there. I think just the educator period, you know what I mean, having that sensibility, right? Some of my experience growing up, depending on the teacher you got, they might have seemed a little bit more sensitive to your education or what you needed, and some of them it was just for a paycheck. So I think there's possibly, if it's possible, talking about some type of criteria or some type of necessary background information to make sure the people who are invested are actually there to actually help, as opposed to I'm just there to get a paycheck. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll say that might be another policy area, right? Because I think what I'm hearing is like, what is the training of our educators? What curriculum do they receive to how to be a teacher, right? How do they deliver their lectures? What do they bring to the table? And so I don't know, y'all might want to link up and talk about that, and then talk with IJ, because it's definitely another like area of policy that I see could be really successful.
Yeah, and then I also want to add, because LA Youth Justice Coalition runs Chugo's Justice Center in LA, and Chugo's Justice Center actually has a high school of their own, Free LA High School, the charter high school, for this specific reason for youth in LA. So just last Friday, I was at Chugo's Justice Center for the Assembly Select Committee on the Status of Boys and Men of Color, and there was an entire youth panel, and that is exactly what they were talking about. The fact that it wasn't until they went to juvenile hall and then were released to Chugo's Justice Center with those resources that they actually received culturally competent, actually like meaningful or adults in their life who care, who were in their lives, leading them, teaching them because they cared about their well-being, as opposed to collecting a paycheck or some other reason of that nature. So definitely, I would say also connecting with Chugo's Justice Center, LA Youth Justice Coalition, and learning kind of like what's working and what they're thinking about, because LAUSD has been doing, they've been working a lot with Los Angeles Unified School District to address some of these things as well. And so those, they might have replicable models that can be turned into state legislation, that can be implemented statewide. And so definitely something to consider. I know we're all the way up here in Zach, but
Yeah,
okay.
we're trying to make it statewide, so now that's why this is important. Yes, Henry?
No, I just want to add, this is a very important opening for the schools to prison pipeline, because when you look at our population, I did a lot of self-help dealing with them and preparing to getting them out to the board with my first nonprofit. And most of us, we went to some of the most horrible trauma that you can imagine. For us to act out the way we acted on society at times, right, being accountable for our shit, right, it was a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, a lot of trauma, a lot of disabilities that are not acknowledged. So hopefully through this bill, we can start opening that conversation about what disability looks like, looking at mitigating factors before you convict somebody. Right now, the mitigating factors, you got to argue them after you get convicted. And like, that should be illegal. You got it, like a veteran who goes to war and has PTSD and snaps and kills somebody at a reaction. Same thing with us when we're young, when we're being abused of all kinds of horrible abuses, we're going to react, right? So engage in the conversation of being more awareness of emotional intelligence, behavioral health, in those areas of healing, I think is very important in breaking that school prison pipeline.
Yeah. So rather than expelling a student, it's like literally the curriculum is sitting down with the student and understanding why they acted out. That's simply what it is. And understanding their emotions rather than punishing them by expelling them or suspending them and then putting them on that disciplinary track. Right.
Yeah, so this is definitely disrupting it. Really appreciate all of those contributions to the conversation. Real quick before we I want to be like in the community, I want to be talking to y'all, dynamic. So real quick before we move on, some of the other things that we do want to talk about are basically like what can y'all do or what's next or what happens now. But before we do that, I do want to name a couple of other things. And then I want to pass to Shivani to talk about something that she reminds us of consistently around like how we will truly build the futures that we want to live in, and that policy is only one mechanism. And I say this because our current bill package, while we have these 3 bills, we have slots for 3 other bills. 2 of them were 2-year bills that unfortunately are not going to move forward. So as many of you know, last year we were working with a 6-bill package. We passed 4 of those bills. So we strengthened the Racial Justice Act. We increased pay for incarcerated firefighters when they're actively responding to a fire emergency to $7.25 an hour. We required CDCR to create a mechanism or a process for incarcerated firefighters to be recommended for resentencing. And we also created a more standardized process for legal professionals and judges and legislators and their staff to be able to visit state prisons, because we all know that that process is very difficult, very complex, a lot of paperwork, and takes a lot of time. And so those are 4 of the things that we did accomplish. Some things that we didn't, but we were trying to accomplish include AB 868 with Assemblymember Carrillo. And this bill was around our voting process. So currently in the state of California, our statewide races, they appear in the primary election or on the primary election ballot, particularly for the top 2 vote getters to then appear on the general election ballot. However, for county offices, that is not what happens. Typically right now, and in most cases, county offices are elected straight out in the primary election, which has the lowest voter turnout compared to our general election. So they're not actually our county boards of supervisors, our county sheriffs. They are not actually being elected by the general population, only a small subset. So AB 868 sought to change that and require county nonpartisan offices to also appear on the general election ballot. Unfortunately, that bill did not move forward in the state assembly. We ran into a lot of proposed amendments that would have made the bill very much less effective, meaning it would have only impacted a very small population of Californians or of California jurisdictions. And so we moved it to being a 2-year bill and attempted to bring it through the Senate this year. Unfortunately, we could not find a Senate author that was willing to carry that bill and prioritize that issue this year. And so that effort will not be moving forward. Another bill that we were working on last year that we were hoping to continue this year that unfortunately we were unable to do so is AB 622 by Assemblymember Ash Kalra. So this bill sought to find the one possible legislative fix to the current CJLF versus CDCR litigation, which is where CDCR has been sued for applying credits, so good conduct, program credits, to someone's minimum eligible parole date if they have an indeterminate sentence, meaning they were sentenced to 20 years to life, 15 years to life, X years to life. Folks were having their minimum eligible parole date advanced to some degree through those credits, earning it, demonstrating rehabilitation, went up for parole, were granted parole, however, are still sitting in our prisons because of this current lawsuit. And so AB 622 sought to find the one possible legislative fix. We introduced it. However, we were unable to move it through the legislature because we could not get enough votes to get it out of the assembly. And unfortunately, because of the very small opportunity it was, there were no amendments that we could consider. There were really no compromises that we could consider to actually continue to move the bill forward. We needed, 41 votes in the assembly? I think we were able to wrangle up like 30 barely, like 30 almost. And we couldn't quite get past that, like 75% of the votes that we actually needed. And so, unfortunately, those are two bills that we had two slots that we had that unfortunately are not moving forward this year. And then another slot that we had was actually in collaboration with our California Alliance for Parole Reform, which is a coalition working to transform the parole process, make it more equitable. I mean, if you can, right? To the degree that you can, to the degree that you can. And so we sought to lead a bill this year around elderly parole, but unfortunately, before we could even introduce the language, we faced tremendous opposition. We faced some very strong media opposition, and we were unable to introduce that bill. And we don't know what that vehicle will look like. However, the California Alliance for Parole Reform will still be doing the defensive work because there are a lot of bills that are trying to attack progress that we've made and make it harder for people to come home through the parole process. And so we're going to be still doing that work and working on some narrative change. So those are 3 slots that we have, and unfortunately did not make it into the bill package. And I wanted to name that, and then also wanted to pass it to Shivani, because Shivani reminds us when we have those moments of what feels like loss. Sometimes they're very frustrating. Sometimes it can feel like despair. That policy is just one of our tools. It is not how we're going to get to the world that we want to live in. So, Shivani, can you help us make sense of the wins and the losses?
Yeah. Well, my personal philosophy is someone who is very staunchly an abolitionist, but I do policy, and that's kind of sometimes at odds with one another, is that I don't think we're legislating abolition, right? I don't personally believe that you can use the system to tear down the system. But I do believe you can use the system to protect the people who are currently in it, to widen the margins of freedom and carve pathways out so then we can do all the other things we need to be doing to get rid of the system, yes, but also to build the replacement, right? Because we can't just burn things down. We need to be accountable to one another. We need to understand, what does it look like then for us to practice accountability, to practice fairness, to practice justice in our community. And that's what working with each other every single day. That's what a lot of the organizing work that our other colleagues do day in and day out, what you all do as outside members, outside organizers, even supporting your loved ones on the inside, right? Like all of that relational work is, some people call me an idealist and they're like, that's so abstract. I don't think so. I think like if we don't change the way we react to one another and treat one another, like that new world is not happening, right? And so yes, there's a lot of frustration and a lot of disappointment in the policy process, but a mentor once recently told me, like, don't fall in love with the bill, fall in love with the people you're working with. And that's going to be the thing that changes and moves people and mobilizes people to make the difference. And so that's really how I continue to find hope as I do policy and as I'm continuously let down is I'm not pedestaling the legislators, right? I'm not propping them up here. I'm propping community up here. And that's who I continue to look to. And I think that is really helpful for all of us as we move through this process and just the life as we're trying to build.
For sure.
One thing, I want to add one thing before we move on, because I know how disheartening it is. Like when we push, when we advocate, when we do the work for this bill, and I know how disheartening us not being able to push AB 622 forward. I felt the same way when we worked on our gun enhancement bill a couple years back, right? Like I really fell in love with the bill, right? I really fell in love with the bill. And it was disheartening, right? So sometimes you're gonna feel that, you're gonna do all that, but remember, I think what she just said right now, like the community you work with, right?
Yep.
The community you show up with. And I know many people maybe on the Zoom, maybe folks here in person, or folks that'll be watching this recording later. Some of them joined us at the Capitol when we did a call to action for AB 622, and people showed up,
Yes.
right? I met someone who her son was already granted parole and is still in there, right? And just pending this litigation. It was heartbreaking to hear that, right? But again, it's remaining connected to those people that show up and knowing that we're still here as a community. Because I know Antoinette and I spoke with her, and like she was saying how she never felt she was a part of something. And doing that thing that day, she felt, yeah, it was big. Yeah. No, it was big. Yeah, it was big. But doing that day like made her feel part of it. Just being in community was what it was. And so I love that reminder that you say is like, don't fall in love with the bill, but fall in love with the people around you that are advocating for the work. So just wanted to add that.
Sure. I mean, because we experience losses all the time. Like, which one was it that just SB 672, y'all? I cried. My brother is an LWOP plus 241. I cried. I cried. And it is really frustrating, but I remember I get to come to work with these amazing people. I get to be in community with all of you phenomenal people. And so I think grounding us in that is really important. So thank you so much, Shivani. Thank you, Efrain.
And I just do want to name that when we are in community with folks inside and we're seeing their reactions, just feeling that, it's a reminder too of what the reality is for them, right? And so that keeps us going too. Just seeing them and then them now just being involved in this process with us. It's all of us really being involved in how we're going to move forward and how we're going to fight harder and stronger. And that reminds me that as Antoinette informed you, that we started last year in the summer. So we would like to start this process of building our policy package earlier for next year. So the time is now, right, for us to start thinking about 2027's bill package as soon as possible and getting all of your feedback and input on strategizing and building for next year. So we don't have to wait until next year for next year's package.
And you can email, just to make it easy, our emails are our first name.
Yeah.
At initiatejustice.org. So Liz at initiatejustice.org. Shivani and sorry for putting y'all on blast. Shivani at initiatejustice.org. So as you are beginning to ideate these potential solutions, sending them to our policy team now.
Yeah.
Because as we are also building a more transparent and effective and equitable bill selection process. Like, we're building out that framework still, and it's gonna be ever evolving as we as communities and or an organization evolve and people. However, we want your input both on ideas, but also on what can we do to make sure that you can contribute to what our bill selection process becomes next year and, for many years to come, because hopefully we'll be here in community with all of you until we're all old and unable to do surgery. Aspect.
Henry.
Yeah, think I just, talking about abolition, right? Some of the bills we're doing, collecting not just us, but everybody as our partners in our network. Some of our reformers, some of our movements of abolition, and in regards to abolition, in regards to your brother and a lot of the over 2,500 youth offenders under the age of 25 who are convicted or stuck. I got a bill for one of the outwhoppers that I did time with, one of the, and he sent me a bill. I sent it to our framework. I think it was a previous policy.
Right.
No, who was it before her? It was a Latina.
Katrina.
Yes, we met.
Okay.
We went over.
Send it again.
Okay. I'll send it again. But really what that bill is to allow people to go after 15, 20, or 25 to be able to go at different times in your period back to court with the judges to be considered. Now with the Racial Justice Act, with all these other bills, we got more cards in the table to give people hopefully out of these outwalk sentences. So I'll send the bill to Liz.
Yeah.
I'll clean it up a little bit and see what we can do hopefully for next year, to really like push some abolition bills to try to, like change the outwalk.
And don't be surprised if Liz responds with homework.
Right. I can do that at home.
I wanted to say that he brought that up. When I first began this, down this path, I have someone that I grew up with that's in prison that suffered a lot of medical issues, and he was one of the lifers as well. But it got me to go to Lifer Alliance at the very beginning and learned a lot of stuff. One thing that I did learn is that the lady Kathleen from the what is it called?
A BPH person.
Yeah, BPH, right?
The research study on aging.
She actually, her and a psychologist went through the prisons and interviewed a lot of prisoners. People are not bringing that up because they have the information that is so crucial to passing these bills, because it went to the age of 26 that people do not develop the full brains until the age of 26. So anything you're considered a child, so your sentence should be treated as such, in a way, depending on the situations. And just like he's had a lot of trauma growing up and it went out into the community or whatever, people are not addressing those issues. And there's certain people, like even somebody that kills, I know someone that had PTSD from being in the army or whatever, and he killed, the sister of one of the artists that is known all around the world from Sacramento, but killed his sister. And he got off. Like, he only had to do a couple of years. But it's almost the same, if you look at it, the same situation that we keep reliving and seeing everything that keeps happening. But that information is, she talked, people said that if you came here and asked me this question 10 years ago, I would have said, gave you whatever answer. But anybody that did 15 years or more had really learned from what they went through, and they could reevaluate, they could look at themselves. And so I always say that, I can see when people come out of prison how changed they are. They're the ones that are showing up. They're the ones that are on time. They're the ones that are wanting to give back for their mistakes as a child. They've grown out of that. We do grow up. That doesn't have to keep us in prison just because, we made, things happen or whatever, and not downplaying anything. But, you don't have to keep somebody in prison for the rest of their life to show them that, for them to learn from their mistakes. And that's all detailed. This lady went with this doctor and they detailed all this information. So if we want to change any bills, I think that's a great place to start.
Thank you for that.
You want to give us home?
Yeah.
So we do
got
want to
some
make
response
some
on
time.
Zoom, by the way.
Go. We do want to make some time for folks to share, ask questions. I know there's some advocates and organizers up in this room right here that are working on some stuff, so would love to hear
Yeah.
that.
So take pictures of these. We're gonna go through it fairly quickly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I just want to quickly summarize, well, just with our bill package, making sure that we're left with the powerful notion that you don't need a law degree to make policy with us. You don't. So,
have one.
and yeah, and that what we do need from you is all of your input. Okay, so how can you be involved, and who informs, leads, and does the work? Hint,
So-
hint.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we have relaunched Policy Corner on our Instagram Live. And so that is one very direct way that you can stay connected to the work, that you can stay informed. And what we're doing is we're breaking down what's happening up here at the state capitol in plain language so we can all understand and we're not confused and thrown off and disconnected due to the political jargon that typically makes up our legislative conversations. And so Policy Corner will be monthly. Make sure you're signed up for notifications on our Instagram so that you can get the alerts when we do announce the next Policy Corner on Instagram Live.
If you haven't seen the last one, it's on our IG page, so go and check it out, because
And it's there.
that's when it was on there with me, and it was a lot of fun. Go check it out. And then we also have our virtual classes that we launched at High Desert and Pleasant Valley, and they would love for you all to come and be a part of that. It's Mondays and Wednesday evenings from 3 to 5. So email Lee, who's our community advocacy manager, and me, if you'd like to be a part of that for any reason, to come by, pop in, say hello. They'd love to have guests come and join us for those. And then, of course, if you want to organize, volunteer, intern, or collaborate with us, we have press conferences, rallies when season picks up for session for any of our 3 bills. As you know, we're having committees. We can use your Me Too's. So any way that you want to be involved, there's lots of ways that you can be involved. So take a picture of those links.
Yeah, so one of the ways that you get involved, and Adriana, if you'd like, I could do the institute. One of us is through our Institute of Impacted Leaders program. This is a program that we run here in the state of California. We've graduated 21 cohorts now. 21 cohorts throughout the state. One of our recent graduates is here. Some of our first
OG graduate.
OGs,
Yeah.
and some of the OGs are back there. See, the OGs are back there. We have some recent graduates here, but it's a 12-week cohort program that we run here where we teach you all what community organizing is, how a bill becomes law, the legislative process, all sorts of things, how we got here. It's a great program. It's a great program, something that I myself, we all have gone through. We all have graduated actually before I did before we became staff. So definitely if you all are interested or have any questions, check out that the first line tinyurl.com/impacted leaders. If you do have questions, you can also email Adriana at initiatejustice.org. If you want to volunteer with us, there's different ways to volunteer with us, even y'all out here in SAC, because I know everybody always says y'all always have events in LA at your LA office. We're here, right? We showed up, we pulled up. Definitely this year, one of our goals is really bringing Initiate Justice to your community, right? So we're hosting some of these community meetings in different regions. But there's also different ways to get involved. If you click on that link there, it'll take you and you can add like what you would like to support with. We do have like data entry. We have and things that you could do virtually at home. Sometimes we just have data entry hangouts, which I enjoy. I just put some music and we just all kick it and enter names of new members that want to get signed up to receive our newsletter inside. So those are always fun. But there's different ways, like we're coming up with different ideas.
Real quick, I'll also add for the folks who are here, since y'all are here in Sacramento, as you've seen our Road to Democracy report, one of our goals this year is going to be leveraging that as a tool for education for our legislators, for our community. And so since you all are here close to the Capitol, when we are, whether it's hosting an event, hosting a briefing, doing maybe a day at the Capitol where we're going in and sharing it with legislators, you would all be great volunteers to support since you're so close to the Capitol. So definitely sign up to let us know that you're interested in volunteering in some way, whether it's behind the scenes or on the front lines, whatever that looks like. And then also there's another one if you want to request some sort of collaboration, like maybe you have a space that you think it would be great for us to do a quick workshop on how a bill becomes a law, or community organizing, or power mapping, or just the work that we do and how we can build power together. You can fill out tinyurl.com/IJcollab and let us know so that we can come to you and your community and your people. Who should shape our laws? Giovanni.
My thinking is yeah. I'm taking it. Okay. Who
Over
should
to you.
shape our law? I think we all know this answer, right? It's all about the people who are most at the root of the issue. And so, as I mentioned earlier, AB 1922 is being heard in committee March 17th. We are already facing some significant opposition. If you can believe it, there are people who believe that it doesn't matter if you're sick, if you are actively dying, if you have already died, they believe that if you are incarcerated, you are a threat and you should be shackled no matter what. And we are fighting against that, right? Because another part of bill advocacy is public education and narrative shift. We want to continue to humanize our loved ones and our community members, right? And take that power back. So if you go to this link, tinyurl.com/AB 1922 stories, it will be in your inbox or your text at some point coming up if it hasn't already been. We are looking to gather stories from folks who have been shackled while they've been in a hospital. There are a couple ways to share your story, because again, we want to make sure we understand like this can bring up a lot of emotion, feeling, visceral impact, right? To relive that. And so there are a few ways to be able to share that lived expertise with us, whether it's coming to the Capitol and talking to legislators, recording a video talking about your story to spread awareness, or even just writing your story, right? Is really empowering to be able to talk about what you've been through in that way. So we will be sharing that link around with folks. Bring business?
Yes, as a reminder, this one for folks here, because I know they got it in the links in the chat already. But for this one, the deadline is tomorrow. For the spring meet and greet visits. I know y'all in the Capitol, but still it's important to go into the district offices with your representative. I know some folks that are here led some of the meetings last year, some joined. I see you back there. My boy Nedrick, I know, Henry, Tina, they were there last year out here in Sacramento. But again, this is a way to build relationships. Again, we're hosting this, or we're setting up this initial meeting, but we hope that you all continue to have those meetings with them, even if you don't go inside the Capitol, but into your district office. And then find out ways they can serve us as constituents, right? I think many people forget. I know I used to, I would forget that they're there to serve us. And very different ways that the services that they have to offer. So like I said the other day in the training, it's like if we don't ask, we don't know. Right. So I think it's always important to see that part also.
Yep. And then as always, follow bills, right? Like we have a bill package. We also have priority support bills, and then we do a lot of defensive work. There are so many bad bills that move through the legislature. And then there are bills that we're not even aware of. You'll notice that our newly, right, we have a bill going through education committee. The shopping bill will probably go through health committee. We are prioritizing more and more the intersectionality of this work. So if there's a bill that you are tracking or you're interested in, Ledge Info is a great way to get day-to-day updates on those pieces of legislation, and then flag them to us so we can track them for you, integrate them into our policy materials, right, to make the broader community aware. And then, like I mentioned, Efrain and Adriana send a lot of calls to action. These are point in time calls where you can quickly call your legislator, send a letter, show up to the Capitol, go in district, talk to your loved ones about an issue, right? And so those will continue to come out throughout the year, and are a very easy way to get involved and to connect with one another who are doing this work.
And I will add too, like even the calls to action, we keep in mind, right, that we are all very busy, right? Like we're working for Initiate Justice, we're doing the work, right? A lot of y'all are managing school, work, family, etc., right? So even with our calls to action, we try to make them as easy as possible for you all to get involved and still like partake in it. Quick phone call to your representatives. I mean, it's as quick as 2 minutes, right? And then we even offer like the oh my God, what's the word? Like the not the prompt, but like what to say or what you can the script. There you go. Oh my God, my brain is not breaking right now. But yeah, we'll offer a script, and again, that's just a suggested script, right? And then also like even on the emails, calls to actions, we have a template already put out for you. We always ask that you personalize it, especially if that bill impacts you, because it makes that email much more powerful, right? But again, we always try to make it as easy as possible because we know life be life. So even when you are annoyed by like, damn it, Brian sent another email. Damn it, another email. Sorry, but not sorry. We need you all, right? Because again, we're a small team. We can't do this without you. This work, you see our coalition partner. We can't do it without them. We can't do it without our community members. But it takes all of us to push this forward.
All right. Now it's your turn.
Next slide.
Yeah.
Next slide.
This is your part.
What are y'all or first? I mean, also questions.
Yeah,
Definitely
also
want
questions, right?
definitely want to open it up. I know, and this is also for people joining us via Zoom. If y'all have any more questions, I know I think we answered most of them. Don't worry, I will be saving the chat just in case we miss anything. I will follow up. But any questions, comments, anything that you yourself are working on, any bills that you are tracking, anything that you all want to bring to light, any ways that our community members can support you all in the campaigns that you might be working on. Yes, floor is open.
Immediately, we got
Hand it away. So tell them, all right, and then if you can, just please say your name. Raul?
Yes. My name is Raul Lopez, and like I'm 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 recently released from incarceration. And when I was incarcerated, uh, we used to actually lead workshop. I was the inside organizer for Initiate Justice, and obviously we promoted the bills that you guys asked us to promote and try to get people to write letters. But in addition to that, because I had a lot of time on my hands, is I've learned how to use those tablets to find information on every single bill. I had the time, but why not? And like right now, they have bills to restrict juvenile resentencing under life without parole, which is a non-starter because 394 allows us to go to parole. That's all I was able to get out. They have, man, they have a lot of bills. But who would I share that information with? Because I understand you guys are real busy and you guys only have the resources to focus on what you focus on. But if there's other people that are working with you guys that love doing this type of stuff, uh, like I could bring you guys' attention to a list of bills. But the thing is, I read every single bill on Legiscan. Uh, they post the results. They post they post the results of every previous day's committee hearing, and I go through that. I find out what's amended. I read the policy reports from the website. From like I was like if I, when I got out, I started uh, going to the website to the committee hearings, looking at the websites, and they're like, okay, we accept your amendments. Well, what's the amendment? Instead of waiting until the amendments came out the next day or something, I could just go to the agenda for that specific committee and it tells you the agenda, the amendments beforehand. So it's like, wait a minute. Now I know what they're talking about. Uh, yes. like I love this stuff. Like you wouldn't believe with the passion. And now that I'm out, I'm hoping to get involved, even if it's volunteering or something. Uh, right now, I do have I'm in Los Angeles. I do have a job opportunity part time working with Curb and Humboldt University. And but Initiate Justice was the first organization that I joined inside. I should read your flyers, and I signed up and started getting them. But people get them and just put them on the table. And yeah, I'm inspired. It all started. Just FYI, I am only here today because of legislation. Because Senate Bill 394. If Senate Bill 394 didn't pass, I would still be sitting in prison right now. And I owe my freedom to this process, to you guys, Elizabeth Calvin, and a lot of these other people that are advocating for us. Like, it's real. I was incarcerated for 33 years. I know what it's like to sit there chained to a hospital bed while there's 3, 4 cops working overtime right next to me with guns, and we have our own room with no window, and I'm not gonna get out of there. There's no way I'm gonna be shot dead as soon as I get off that bed. But they still have to handcuff us there. I don't even know if I was handcuffed during surgery, but I was out cold, but I probably was. Who knows? So a lot of the stuff you guys advocate for, I lived through, and I appreciate it, and a lot of people in there, we appreciate it. So there was comments about.
Thank you,
Uh,
Ro.
okay, I'll go there because I know we don't have that much time, but I hope to get involved. I signed up for your guys' I'm going to sign up for the Impacted Leaders, and I signed up for your guys to basically to be a member out here as well.
I would say, Raul, definitely, first of all, welcome home and show some love in the chat.
Thank you.
Also,
Yeah,
welcome home. Thank you for all the work that you did while inside, and then the work that you continue to do out here. And I see the greatness that you're going to do for our communities out here. Definitely tap in. I'm in LA. I'm usually at the LA office, so tap in with me, Efrain, at initiatejustice.org. Maybe we could connect over there in LA, and then our policy team, Liz, yeah, they were over here impressed, and I mean, we're all impressed.
Yeah.
But
Don't be shy to send us those bills.
yeah, Liz and Shivani, we have Liz and Shivani, both at initiatejustice.org.
Yeah, I passed.
So definitely send us the ones you're looking at so we can figure out how to better collaborate with folks, right, on the issues that matter to you.
Yeah, and currently I work at Center for Employment Opportunities on Spring and Alpine, and I pass your guys' office all the way because I go down Broadway. So I thought about just stopping by one day after work or something.
Yeah, email me and then we'll tap in and then we could come by the office.
How do I get your email address?
They'll drop it in the chat right now. But it's
All right.
Efrain at initiatejustice.org. But Alyssa or Adriana, if you can please. Jocelyn, I saw your hand. We have time for a couple more.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry I couldn't be there today. But listen, with the spring sessions happening right now with you assembly members, I think the biggest thing to know, just on my side, is most of you know that I had my visit suspended for a while. I was fighting that, and with the help of Liz and Adriana and everybody telling me what to do, I went to Josh Hoover's office, who is not about releasing prisoners. And I went to him and I was like, CDCR is not responding to me. I need you to help me. I just left my family visit today after I wasn't supposed to see my husband for a year and a half. And now I'm leading the spring session at Josh Hoover's office to thank him and bring him on board with us so that he can start making the changes. But it's like people think that, they don't believe in canceling, letting people out of prison. But here's somebody who fought for me, and the entire prison knows that Josh Hoover was on our side. So that's why I'm just like, you guys have to step up even when they don't think that they'll do anything.
Yeah. Thank you. I want to echo, thank you so much, Jocelyn. Congratulations on your family visit and just thank you for continuing to show up virtually, however you do. You're always in space with us. I want to echo a point that Jocelyn just made. We are oftentimes talking about opposition, right? These are people.
Yeah.
And to what Shivani said earlier, we need to change the way in which we build relationships, the way we relate to one another, including people who may not always be on our side, because I guarantee you there is some point of alignment. There is some point of familiarity. There is some common experience somewhere between you and every other person, if not for just the fact that we're all human beings living through this experience like together, right? And so wanting to echo that, because I think that's really important to really look at people for relationships and not what they can and can't do for you, or if they are or are not on our side. And I think that's really important. So thank you so much for uplifting that.
Well, and I think, like, honestly, I'm sorry, and then I promise I'll mute myself. But I honestly think that the biggest part is, like I said, I didn't think he was gonna do anything, and like the prison's scared of him, and they're all like, "Oh my gosh!" And it's like, literally, the guards are like, "You went all the way to the top." I was like, "Yeah, because what you did was wrong, but it's okay." But now that like we have them on our side, it's like, they CDCR responded within a week, and to them, like, they're just amazing. So, and so are you guys. So I'm going now. Bye.
Anyone else wanted to share out?
Just want to emphasize that important point with what our partner just did right there. These legislators, if they're in your, we're the constituents. They work for us. So like I had a similar issue with one of my nonprofits. They were messing me around. They took my nonprofit status with no due cause, and one of my consultants, she just said, you know what, you a complaint letter. I was like, no shit, right? So I tried it. I went. They have you fill out a form, and they'll check these government systems. They'll call on them, and them systems they look at them at a higher authority, right? To me, they're all people. You know what I mean? But at the same time, there's juice and there's a little bit of privilege that you can cash in whenever you got a little systemic barrier with some of these systems. So that's definitely another route that saves you all the legal time and process, where you can just get it done through there, fill out a complaint, and then they submit it on your behalf. They make those calls, and like I got a call like within one day, within a week, I had my nonprofit status reinstated.
1000%.
You gotta restate the way we all that. Okay, it's not on. They're not doing anything. They work for you. There is a respect that you can give and get, but they also do control a lot of things. And when schools or county or city or whatever is you're piling up against you, those are the ones that do. So you can turn to them and get help, and we're just now figuring that all out.
1000%.
It's time for one more, Cheryl. Nedrick, I already knew. I kept looking at you.
You kept telling me to do it.
You know what? We can afford someone here to talk.
Yeah.
DC,
So
what you working on?
So initially, of course, we're LSPC, all of us are none, but we work with everybody.
Yeah.
Especially being Bernice, we don't care about all that stuff. So like initially, because so of course I don't know all the bills because most of them got introduced. I don't know all the bill numbers.
Okay.
But we have a carceral climate bill that's dealing with, of course, heating conditions and cold conditions that deal with just incidents that are occurring in the inside and emergency procedures. So it's administrative, as well as looking at the incarcerated population. And this happened after Adrian Broner died. We have fines and fees that take away some of the criminal fees that are placed on people that are convicted, because it's a financial disparity that keeps on going on. Mm-hmm. We also have the bench warrant, also financial disparity. When people can't meet their deadlines or can't get to court, they place people, either give them warnings or they place them in jail. We're trying to strip that away, seeing that their financial disparity doesn't allow them. We have the prison phone calls with Becker.
They're already free, but we're trying to get the removal of the text as well as letter scanning so people could actually get their physical letters. We have 1647, which is the juvenile transfer, which I don't know how far that's going to go because they have a problem with that already. We have the 1646, which is the HUG Act.
Yep. Just passed committee.
Just passed committee.
It did, but they tripping for the juveniles. So the adults.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
Yeah, I'm about to say.
for a loop.
So we have the HUG Act. There's one that's 1645, which is for the adults that went through. 1646 for the juveniles. They had a problem with, so they're already uproaring because they don't want children to have any connection. They don't want to break the pipeline and give them a stability.
You know what's interesting about the difference? The adult one, it's more of like you should do it. It's a privilege to have it. The youth one really explicitly says it's a right.
It's a right, but that's the whole thing.
That's what they.
It's a right, but it's also up to a facility's discretion. Yeah. So they're gonna play on that, and they're gonna basically, they're very vindictive.
Yeah.
What else is there?
I was gonna.
I cried about that one too.
Yeah.
I cried about
I was
something.
gonna say if you can, just send me the.
I'm gonna give you all the.
The information. If you can send it over, then that way.
Yeah, those are all already on our tracking.
Yeah.
We're tracking all of those already.
And then that way we could send it over. That way we could send it over also look for our community members that joined us. And then so they can have.
I would tell people if anything, and it's outside of my scope, but it's Sharp Collins. It's a protective class bill that she's running. People that have been incarcerated, they should be checking that out.
Oh, I think I heard about that one. Okay. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much.
All right, y'all. I'm doing bad on. So they can see us over here.
Okay.
Thank you all very much for joining us. For those that joined us in person, those that joined us virtual. Shout out to my team here in person and virtually. Round of applause for everyone. Thank you for showing up. Really, it takes all of us a reminder. It just takes all of us to do this work. Don't forget about signing up for in-district visits. Tomorrow's deadline. Don't miss out on that. And then the rest of the stuff I'll send with a follow-up email. But again, I'm happy. I'm in Sacramento. I love Sacramento. I'm happy that we get to do this hybrid meeting out here in Sacramento. And hopefully we come back for some more.
Yeah.
Y'all shut up.
Thank y'all for coming.
See everyone in the Bay Area. We're going to Bay Area soon. Promise. Good night. Bye.
Thank you, Melissa and Adriana.
Everybody in person, say bye to those person.
Thanks, everybody.
Amazing.
There you go.
Hi, everybody.
Camera now.
Bye.
And yes, everyone will get a recap email. You will get a recap email with everything, everyone.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night,
Thank you.
guys. Thank you.